Brian Faries, and he's going to be discussing the new reporting system that I know agents and specialists are really looking forward to utilizing for their reporting. So Brian, take it away.
But again, my presentation is more in reference to the new TAMED system, which will be overtaking Texas Data.com for fiscal year 2023. And again, TAMED stands for Texas A&M Extension Data. So that's where the TAMED acronym comes from. It will be replacing it again for September 1st is when we will be moving that live. But our whole objective for the TAMED system was to simplify. The simplicity is the key in order for us to really increase our data integrity, to ease the entering of data, right? Because as we all know, entering data for things that we have to do is not a fun process, right? Nobody likes to come and enter their data. It's not like we look forward to that. So our objective in ODA was really to try to create such a simplified system that makes it easy. It kind of eases that burden of people having to enter their data. What can we do to streamline that process so much and make it so easy to understand that it's not a difficult process, that you can easily jump in and add your data at any time that you need to in a quick and efficient manner. So, but it's important to always realize, though, that collecting data, is essential to our AgriLife Extension. I mean, that's the way we receive our funding. We receive funding from independent funders, from the state, from the federal governments. We have to present to them what impact that we are making. How many total contacts are we making? How many contact hours have we made? And that's what drives our funding. We have to prove to the state, hey, these are the number of contacts we made. These are the number of contact hours that we made. And then they actually define what our funding is based upon what type of impact that we're making. So if we are under reporting, if people are not reporting their numbers of activities that they have done, then it impacts us overall throughout the entire agency, right? Because it affects our funding. It affects the number of positions that we can have. So the trickle down effect per se is very significant if we are not reporting out our data. So my role from Office of Data Accountability was really to simplify this process so much so that we can get all that data in, so that people are not holding back from entering their data. We know we really need to collect that data so that we can then paint the picture to the state, federal governments, and independent funders that we are making significant impact, and therefore we are getting the funding that we need in order to survive as an agency. So really kind of mentioning the primary functions of what the TAMED system is then. So again, it's an ability for us to report back to the state, right, which is our Legislative Budget Board report known as the LBB. So every quarter we have to report back to the state the number of contacts and number of contact hours, along with a little bit of other data as well. But these are our primary resources of defining what type of funding that we are getting. So again, proving that impact that we make at the state level to define funding from the state. We also will collect certain metrics that actually go into our federal reports as well. So again, some of the data that we collect at the state level, generally for this system being, again, mainly for our LBB report. But again, there are metrics within there that we can then also use in our federal reports for our federal reporting. We have impact by our state congressional districts. So a lot of times we do receive requests from state representatives who are asking, what type of impact have you made in my state congressional district, right? In my congressional district, what have you done for me? So that's not looking really at a county level or a region level, right? We are looking maybe across zip codes that actually accumulate to make this one state representative congressional district. So we can actually provide that type of information at the congressional district level, because a lot of these activities that are being entered will collect a zip code that allows us to then break it out into respective state congressional districts. Commissioner court reports. So a lot of county agents have to provide some form of commissioner court reports. They have to derive all this data at the county level, the impact that they're making at that county level, and then derive all that information, aggregate it together to provide for that commissioner courts report. Well, this system would allow us to do that, right? We could collect all the data for that respective county, and then they can generate their own report for the commissioner's court. Production by an educator, right? So that could be an agent or a specialist. Production by a county, production by a district, and production by the regions. And then, of course, our overall agency production, right? So we can paint a picture of how we're doing as an agency, as Extension does over time. How are we doing, and how is everybody doing? We can break it down to the micro levels, such again as the educator, county, district, and regional levels. So as far as fiscal year 2023, this transition that we will be making from Texas data over to the new TAMED system. So these are kind of the processes that are going to be in place, the procedures in order to close out Texas data for fiscal year 2022 and then start moving on to fiscal year 2023 with the new TAMED system. So Texas data will actually be locked down and archived on September 15th. So in order to close out fiscal year 2022, we have to allow enough time into September for all the educators to be able to input their information to close out again fiscal year 2022. At that point in time, we will be locking down Texas data system, because that's when we then turn around and report our numbers to the state. That's the reason we have to lock down all of our information, is because when we report to the state, that we have to lock down any of the entries that have gone into the system, because those numbers have to be regenerated from an auditing perspective if the state ever came to us and wanted us to recreate those numbers. So this is the reason you have a lockdown at the end of every quarter, is because, again, we have to make sure that we can regenerate that information in case we are ever audited. But again, that Texas data system will remain accessible for reporting purposes. So just so you know that, yes, you'll still be able to go back and pull retroactive reporting. You just will not be able to add anything new or edit anything after that September 15 lockdown. As far as plans, right, for your plans, there will be no plans in the new TAME system, right? That is something that's being done away from the TAME system. So thinking that out of your mind, whereas in Texas data, you were maybe adding plans for the new TAME system and fiscal year 2023 is all done manually, and that will all be defined by your direct supervisor, maybe your CED, your DEA, your RPL. Someone will provide you instructions on what you have to submit as far as a plan. The TAME system, however, we will move that live on September 1st. It will be accessible via that tame.tamu.edu, so that will be the domain that you'll be using in order to access the new system beginning September 1st. It will still require the SSO login, just as you do with Texas data now, so you're not having to come up with a new username or password. Again, that will allow you access into the system. Starting out, we are going to be starting out with a clean slate. Users will have to request, on their first login, just accessibility or an approval for their account. That way we can make sure that you're being set up systematically correctly, that if you're at the county level, that you're being assigned to the correct county, or at the district level, you're being assigned to the correct district, and regional level assigned to the correct region, state level access. We have a user role status such as a staff member, maybe somebody who's an administrator working in a county office who is helping enter in data for a respective county agent. Well, we're setting them up to be able to be assigned to certain educators. So again, we just want to make sure that we're getting all the accounts set up correctly. So on your first login, you'll be asked a couple of questions. There'll be an approval process, and then once that's approved, you'll then have access to the system. And then all quarterly entries will be locked down 15 days after quarter end. Again, as I was explaining earlier, with Texas data, same exact concept, right? We report those numbers to the state. We have to lock it down for auditing purpose. So the same procedure or the time frame that 15 days after quarter end, everything will be locked down. So here are some new features. One thing, when I presented at the state conference last week, I think there were several questions, and I think there was a little confusion. So I really want to present this in a little different way, in the sense that to really disregard your concept of what Texas data and how you've always done things in the past, right? Because TAMED is based upon just a completely new process of data entry, right? So I think confusion was because people were still trying to relate, okay, how does TAMED do this, what Texas data did? I think that was causing confusion. I think it's better for everybody just to kind of take that concept and throw it out their mind, that moving forward in fiscal year 2023 is that you look at this as a clean slate, as a new way of doing things, right? Don't try to equate the two. So again, some of those questions that were coming through, I just felt were maybe tied to that confusion. It's just understanding that Texas data is gone, that the new way that we are doing things will be tied to TAMED, and to just look at that as a clean slate. TAMED will only require that you're entering activities, right? So there's no more plan creation. There's no more adding a task and trying to assign it to a plan. That concept is out the window, right? It's only that once you've done something, you are simply entering an activity. You're not tying it to a plan that you had or anything of that nature. When you do something, you simply add that activity. That's all that it is. All educators are responsible for entering their own activities, right? So regardless of how many agents are involved in a particular, maybe a multi-county event, or maybe you have specialists that are coming in to speak at a county event, well, it's irrelevant. Everybody has to enter their own activity, right? Because there's different needs. What a county agent enters for their activity is probably going to be different than what a specialist would enter if they go down to a county to give a special presentation to that county. So again, what they want to enter, the details that specialists may want to enter for that activity, is going to be different than what the county agent needs to enter. So again, everybody is responsible for entering their own activities. One of the questions that I did receive at the state conference was that, well, what if I enter it, we do a tri-county event, one person enters it, but the other two agents do not enter their activity. How does that impact you? Well, it has zero impact on you, right? If you enter your activity, you are covered. If somebody else doesn't enter something or what they did for their activity, well, that is on them, right? You're not being affected by that at all. Just realizing that if you enter your activity, you are completely covered. Everybody is dependable on nobody else, right? Everybody's just simply responsible for entering their own respective activities. The activity entry form fields will vary by activity type. So whether or not it's a planned educational event, are they monthly one-to-one events? Is there a newsletter being sent out? Are you submitting a social media post for educational material? So what I mean by that is that whenever you enter an activity, the fields of information that will be on that form will vary based upon the activity type that you have chosen. And I'll show you that here in a moment when we get onto the system. The activities are categorized by a single program area. So in the old system, you would notice that you had to enter maybe a program name, you had to enter from a drop down a program topic, and sometimes a program initiative. Well, this is actually being just knocked down to about the 30 to 35 total program areas that were coming for the entire agency. So again, there will only be one single drop down. You're not going to be choosing multiple subcategory fields with a bunch of listings of different types of program names and topics and initiatives that you're really only now going to choose from a select few of program areas. It includes features beyond funder reporting needs. So again, sometimes we do have some filters or features rather that are built into the system that maybe you're not having to utilize, but with the needs that we have around the state, different regions want different things, different districts want different things, different counties need different things, that I've really wanted to build in enough features that makes it flexible for everybody to utilize the features that they feel benefit their region or their district or their county. So sometimes some of these features may not be needed. So that will be defined by your DEA or your CED, your RPL, whether or not there's certain features that should be utilized, but the features are there for other activities as well, right? So just understanding that maybe everything that's built in is not necessarily needed unless it's defined by your direct supervisors that you should be utilizing it. Again, the video tutorials will fully train users. So whenever you log into the system and access your account, your video tutorials, probably 15 to 20 minutes of tutorials, will help you completely explain the entire system and fully understand it. So this, I guess, a long process of having to be trained on how to utilize a certain system is kind of be out the window now as well, right? So within 15 to 20 minutes, again, you should fully understand the entire system. We also are including video icons next to each form field. So when you select an activity type and you go in to complete that form for that activity, you're going to notice a video icon next to every single field. So if you have a question of what does this field mean, what am I supposed to enter in this field, we can click that video icon. It will explain to you. It will define what that field means. It will give you examples of things that you should be entering in there, just so that, again, it's a quick resource. It's easy for you to figure out exactly what you need to enter, and trying to catch errors before they occur is the whole objective of that. So really, again, having that easy tip that's right there that you can click, understand what that field means, and then you know what to enter. Mobile friendliness. We wanted to make sure that this system really is built on mobile friendliness, that, again, to increase that data entry, frequency of getting the data that we need, right, that you can access it via your phone, your tablet, laptop, desktop computer, regardless of the device. We wanted to make sure that everything was mobile friendly. And of course, you'll be able to download it as a web application icon on your phone, right? So just as an app icon that you can click and it accesses that direct system. So again, an easy way for you to access the new TAMED system to be able to enter your data. So again, you're sitting at a county event. Maybe you have a specialist that came in and they're sitting up there talking. You can bring up your phone real quick and in a couple minutes enter that activity and you're done with it, right? So again, I'm trying to make it very flexible so that it's very easy for you to input your data whenever you need to. So let's just jump into the quick sneak peek, I guess, of the system. I'll close this out and let's bring it in. So this is the new TAMED system. So whenever you log in with your SSO login, you'll be presented with the primary dashboard that you see. Again, the top three maroon buttons here are primary sections, right? When you complete an activity and you're ready to add an activity, then you're clicking the Add Activity button. If you ever want to view or edit any activities that you've entered in the past, then you would click the View Edit Activities button and you'll see a full listing of all your activities. A reporting section, again, to be able to generate, you'll be able to filter out data, be able to download reports. We'll be developing a lot more custom reports to really help out with just processes that people have within their daily functions. So it really customizing a lot of reports as we get to understand more needs that people have. What ways can we make easy one-click reports for people to really be able to aggregate data, compile data, really to help them with their job functions, right? So again, we'll be developing that more and more over the course of the year. Then at the bottom, you have your three gray buttons, which again, more of our resources. Again, this would be the tutorial section where people can come in and watch all the tutorials that we have really to learn how to utilize the system. We have our FAQs. Again, this would just be the frequently asked questions. And also our help desk, again, where you'll be able to submit your actual help desk ticket, and that will send it to multiple people within the Office of Data and Accountability that will then respond to in a quick manner in order to answer your question or to help you resolve any type of issue that you may have. Let's go first of all through some of these activities that we add, how we view and edit activities, and also the reporting section. So when we look to add an activity, we're simply clicking add activity, right? So we've completed an activity. Now we're ready to enter it. We click add activity. And then what you'll see are buttons that are corresponding to the different types of activities that we have. So we have planned educational activity events, which again would just be that, right? You set up a one-shot program. You invited people to come. It was a planned educational event, right? You have a series going. You have multiple sessions. So you have sessions and you have these planned educational sessions that you want to enter. You also have monthly one-to-one. This is whenever you have people coming off the street into the office asking you a question. Maybe somebody emails you asking you for some educational material on a topic and you're responding to that email. Maybe you receive a phone call, people asking questions, and you're providing them with educational material over the phone. Or even you going out to somebody's house to look at an issue in order to give them some solutions or help them resolve this particular issue. So it's a one-to-one interaction, right? And this is only entered on a monthly basis, right? So you would actually just kind of keep a tally of all the one-to-one contacts that you have, either via phone, via email, face-to-face, when you're going out to their house, that you are just keeping that tally, and then you just simply enter those totals at the end. And we'll look at each of these forms here in just a second. The newsletter, again, if you're sending out a newsletter, right? What was that educational material about? Giving a summary of that. How many people did you send it out to? Mass media, this is if you're doing a television interview, you're doing a radio interview, you're doing a podcast, some form of streamline that, again, this is mass media. This is something that you would also want to record, right? Social media, maybe you have some educational material that you want to post on the Facebook page, the AgriLife County Facebook page, or the Twitter. You're sending out a tweet about some form of educational material. Well, this allows you to track that information that you've done from that standpoint. Promotional, this is whenever you're promoting something from AgriLife. It's not a planned educational event, such as again, working at a county fair, or if you're working at the state fair and you have a booth and you're simply promoting 4-H. You're handing out pamphlets as people come by, or you're just talking to people for a couple of minutes about one of the 4-H programs. Well, that's not a planned educational event, right? You're not actually talking to 5,000 people sitting at your booth for 8 straight hours. You worked that booth for 8 hours, yes, but you talked to multiple people coming by and just handing them flyers and answering questions from them. So it's not really a planned educational event. You're simply promoting some form of AgriLife program or the AgriLife agency in general. So again, it's promotional type events that would go in this category. Individual performance. So this would be one of the new features that we've added. Again, something that may be required, may not be required by your direct supervisor. But again, that would allow you to track information in relation to things that you're doing for yourself in a career standpoint, such as you're doing some form of continual education, or things that you're doing for team building, or maybe you're meeting with the volunteers internally to discuss what being a volunteer means, or really trying to have some form of to energize volunteers of some sort, right? So things that you're doing internally from an individual performance standpoint. And then lastly, we have our volunteers non-educational. Now, whenever you do like a planned educational event, you will have a section to be able to input your volunteer information, how many volunteers worked, and as well as how many volunteer hours they did at these planned educational events. But then you have volunteer non-educational, which means that you're not really part of a planned educational event, right? Again, a good example that we use is that for the Learn, Grow, Eat, Go program, where you have gardens, and on the weekends you actually have volunteers that need to go out with you to help weed the garden, right? You're not meeting with people. You're not having an educational session. You're simply going out on a weekend to help weed the garden and get everything prepped maybe for the Learn, Grow, Eat, Go session that's going to be starting very soon. So it's prep work, or it's people coming into the office who are coming in to help clean the office, or for anything that's non-educational related. So again, just a way to be able to track that information separately, because we do need volunteer hours. But again, let's just look at a couple of, so just looking at our planned educational, there are fields that when you select a respective answer will drive exactly what fields of information show up. So again, whether or not you're an activity lead, one person is known as the activity lead. If you're doing a multi-agent or a multi-county event, there's multiple educators that are involved, because the way that we stop from duplicating contact numbers that we report to the state is that we will only take the contact numbers of whomever is assigned as the activity lead. That way, if we have 5 educators who are entering information for the exact same activity, 4 of those would be a no for this, and 1 would be the activity lead. That tells us then to only include that one activities lead's contact number. So whatever the contact numbers that they provide for total participants, we know to include that in our state report, to include as far as our total contacts made for that. And therefore, we're not duplicating the number of contacts, even though we may have had 5 entries for the exact same activity. So by this activity lead really drives that factor. If yes, include in our state number totals. If not, then do not. But that means that every educator still has it part of their record of what they did for that respective activity because they entered it themselves. But again, you see the basic information. I'm going to go through all these forms. I really don't have the time for that. But again, as I mentioned, the video icons, by just clicking a video icon, it will actually come through and then start, again, explaining what that field means, giving you examples, really try to clarify and catch any issues before they ever occur. And one thing is that the activity lead, whoever that activity lead will actually have to provide more information, such as our contacts by age, by sex, by race, as well as our volunteer breakdown. But again, people who are not the activity lead or not designated as an activity lead on a multi-educator event, then again, you can see it minimizes a lot of information that has to be entered. You're simply entering the total number of participants. We do not need the whole breakdown from non-activity leads because we're already capturing it from the activity lead. So really trying to find ways to eliminate all this data that's maybe not required from everybody. Okay, going back out, up here at the top, just notice these are what we call breadcrumbs. It's really good from a user flow standpoint. So as you're kind of going back through different things, you can easily jump back to certain areas. So you get realizing those breadcrumbs there at the top. You have the menus also here at the very top, wherever you can again jump to sections anytime you want, really tied to what you see, buttons as far as you see here on the primary dashboard. We can go in and view activities. Let's look at some of those. Again, like planned educational, again, I can see every activity that I've entered in the past. I can click on the hot link of the name and go in and edit information if I needed to, given it has not been locked down yet, right? Because again, remember 15 days after quarter end and we've reported it to the state, then you'd no longer be able to edit that, but you still would be able to view that information. Another thing I want to point out, see this little red here, just leave this one out and just show you exactly what we did here. So again, what it is that we have a copy function. So say that we're doing this every month. This is our monthly one-to-one contact. So I know that in August, I'm going to be entering another monthly individual contacts. Well, rather than having to type everything out, one thing I can do is I can just make a copy. We have a copy function for that. So we can copy it. Then you notice that it's highlighted in red, but there are some fields of information that are missing. And that's because we anticipate that these fields are going to change. We expect that last day of the month to change for this because it's going to be probably in August. Right. So again, I've got to be able to just come in and edit that entry, and some of this summary information, I'm not having to retype every time. So again, really trying to find ways that you can copy a function and just really making a few little edits to that and saving it and saving you all the time from having to populate every single field each time. But going back out to our home. But for the most part, that is the basic concepts. Again, the reporting section is the same concept as well, right? We said when we click on it, we go to our activity types, and then we can go in there and we can generate all the reports that we want. We can filter by different filters we have. We can download it and export it out into a comma separated value or CSV file, which then you can open in Excel. Then you can further, isolate. You can filter out data, delete records, aggregate, compile in different ways that you want. So really, again, trying to give you a lot of robust reporting that's right at your hand so that you can do whatever you need to meet the reporting needs that are involved. But for the most part, that is the system. Whenever you first start going in, again, you'll be coming to this tutorial section, and through watching these tutorials, I think you'll have almost a full understanding of actually what this system entails, in addition to using those filters that are the video icons that we have next to each field, going through each form and being able to watch those and understand exactly what that field means and what you need to be entering in that. I think will be very beneficial. But with the tutorials, as well as these field tutorials, will really give you a very robust understanding of exactly what the system entails. So that is where we're headed. Again, this will move live September 1st and will only be used for fiscal year 2023 data. Everything will still be closed out for fiscal year 2022 and Texas data, but that is the direction that we are headed. We are always open to suggestions. So even if you get in and start utilizing the system and you find things that maybe work a little better, hey, we are always open to that. We want to make life easier for you guys, man. We want to make sure that you are actually working with a system that makes it easier on you to enter your data and to enter it correctly, right? Being correct and entering it is just as important all the way. So with that being the case, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Lindsay, or answer any questions that people may have.
All right, thank you so much, Brian. One quick question early on was, will the word activity be broken down on screen like activity type? And then will we use evaluation? Will the use of evaluation be a part of activity reporting or separate?
That's right. So again, as far as the evaluation, again, that will vary from district to district. DEAs may, some may not, right? It's dependent upon them. Again, we're trying to open that flexibility that those features are there if that's what they want to utilize, or are they doing it some other way? So I would definitely want to enter every one of my activities. That way you have a running list. Also, if you know exactly what you did, this is a central storage for you as an agent or a specialist or an educator in general, just being able to track everything you've done. But it's also there for those DEAs or an RPL to be able to go in and see what you've done as well, right? So it can be used for employee evaluation, but again, that's going to depend on the DEA or RPL themselves of what their what methods or procedures they have in place for that. But the feature is there in order for them to do that.
All right. Any brief description of data retrievals in TAMED?
Okay, well, right now what we have is just data dump reports, right? So again, the base reports that we have is that whenever you go in, you can filter out by your county, by a district, by a region. It will also depend on user role status, meaning that if you're a county agent, you're only going to see what you have listed on those reports, right? You will not be able to see what other agents are listed, what any other counties have listed. It's only what you have entered yourself. But then again, you have other user role status, such as a DEA, who's going to be able to see every agent that has entered something within their respective district. So again, depending on your user role status, an RPL is going to be able to every single entry made by every agent within that region. And at the state level, we're going to be able to see, everybody's entries, right? So again, depending on user role status, but the first reports that we have come out with are data dump reports, which again is going to be everything that was entered into each individual form. There will be individual records for every single entry that you made for the different types of activity types. But again, we're going to be developing more robust reporting, compiling and aggregating so that it's just single one-click buttons that you can get a full analysis of what you've done in the past, how many contacts you've made, how many total contact hours, all the events that you've made, maybe by activity type. So again, customizing reports is what our whole plan is, beginning early September to start developing more robust reporting to really kind of help out with the activity needs and that I guess each employee has, because there's so many different needs at every level, at the county, at the district, at the region, at the state. It's just so many different ways that we can compile data to help out each individual level. Hope that made sense, Dean.
Thank you so much. And then one more question. Will previous information in Texas data be available to view in TAMED?
It will not be in TAMED. So again, we will archive Texas data on September 15th. So that system will remain for all your retroactive reporting from fiscal year 2022 and before. But everything for fiscal year 2023 moving forward will all be within the TAMED system. So it's simply archiving of the Texas data, but none of that data will be converted over to the new TAMED system. If you have a suggestion, hey, maybe doing this is something better, we are always open to that. It's understanding the users and understanding the way people work with the system so that we can continue to enhance that. So we look forward to everybody providing feedback. We are always open to that. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you so much again for showing this training. Everybody, if I'm sure that was a lot of information dump. So just a reminder, our Tech Tuesdays are always going to be posted at extensionemployees.tamu.edu/Tech Tuesday. So you will be able to view this. And if you know somebody who wanted to view this, they can go there and that video will be uploaded soon. Please look forward to our August 30th Tech Tuesday. We're going to be talking about Ruben over at the District 12 is going to be discussing different ways that him as a DEA and one of his agents is utilizing Teams as a communication tool in their county. So thank y'all again for coming. We look forward to seeing y'all next week. And thank you again to our speakers, Brian and Tom.